Hello, everyone. I'm Ruth Shapiro, co-founder and chief executive of the Center for Asian Philanthropy and Society in Hong Kong. I want to thank Ben and Global Philanthropic for inviting us to present today and to share some of the findings from our research. Throughout this, there'll be some advertisements about our work that come to you via the chat, but I just want to say anything we do is available on our website, which is caps.org. So let me just start the presentation. CAPS is a research and advisory nonprofit based in Hong Kong, but working throughout Asia. Our mission is to increase both the quantity and the quality of private social investment, that's philanthropy, CSR, impact investing, all the ways in which private money is used to do good. So today I'm going to share with you some trends that are happening in Asia around philanthropy. But before that, let me show you a quick movie. Okay, now you've seen our commercial. So the world is facing unprecedented challenges, and we know that the social sector has risen to the occasion. But we also know that while this pandemic has been serious and terrible, and we never thought a year into it, more than a year, we would still be here, the trends that we see happening around the world, and in Asia particularly, were there even before the pandemic. What the pandemic has done is really accelerated certain trends. And so I want to talk about some of the more positive trends that we've seen. But let me start off with, unfortunately, one of the negative ones. Trust remains an issue. Asia is suffering from a trust deficit. When we asked high net worth individuals, why don't you give more? Many of them said, because we don't trust the organizations to receive our money. That is a serious impediment to more giving. In our Doing Good Index, we found that SDOs, social delivery organizations, which are nonprofits and social enterprise, the trust has actually gone down from 2018 to 2020. With 48%, which is of course less than half, in 2018 saying that they feel that they are fully trusted by society, going down to 44% in 2020. And according to Edelman's Trust Barometer, trust is at a long-time low, all over the world. And we can see for 3 Asian economies, according to Edelman, overall trust has gone down 17 points for Korea, 15 points for China, and 8 points for India. And that was before, this study was done before COVID-19 really hit India. So I'm sure that number has increased. So why do we do the Doing Good Index? Well, we're trying to figure out how to build trust. How do you create a trusting environment where people feel comfortable giving their hard-earned resources to nonprofits, to social enterprises, and into the social sector more broadly. As the video you saw described, if we could reach 2% of GDP, which is the amount, the equivalent amount that Americans spend on philanthropy, it would equal $587 billion if you look across Asia. That is 12 times the amount of foreign aid that flows into Asia and 1/3 of the annual cost to achieving the Sustainable Development Goals by 2030. So this is something we can do. There's no reason that Asia can't get to 2%. The question is, how do we do it? And the Doing Good Index looks at the factors that both enable and impede the flow of private resources toward doing good. What do we find? Well, in the Doing Good Index, we divide the economies into 4 clusters. And let me just point out to you that these clusters are in alphabetical order because this is not an overall league table. Our goal here is really to talk about the distance that an economy has to travel before fully empowering and enabling their social sector. Why does Singapore and Taiwan do well? Well, in Singapore and Taiwan, the government essentially believes that the social sector is an important partner in helping to achieve their own objectives. In the doing better category, these economies are essentially doing pretty well, but could be improving. Doing okay, not quite as good. And Cambodia and Nepal were newest to our study, and they have a fairly significant way to travel before they really have an empowered and enabled social sector. And that includes both the supply of money, the philanthropists and the corporations, as well as the demand, the nonprofits and the social enterprises. Let me just share with you some of the trends that we see. I'm going to talk about 4 of them. 1, government is really important. And my colleagues at Tsinghua pointed out in the last session that government plays a very important role. And we know that about China. But that's not only true for China. Government plays the most important role in every Asian economy. And that can be good and that can be bad. So let me give you some reasons why. Well, first of all, government controls a lot of how money can flow. And it also controls taxes. So we look at taxes. Singapore has the highest tax subsidy rate in the world at 250%. Nepal and Cambodia, which as you recall, are in the category of needing to do the most or not doing enough, Cambodia 0% subsidy for individuals and Nepal 0% subsidy for corporations. This means that the government is not really incentivizing companies or individuals to do much. The other point is that many countries and economies in Asia, there's a cap on how much you can give to receive this subsidy. Why? If somebody wanted to give all their money away, why stop them? So this cap is somewhat of an impediment. And that's why we look at that many Asian economies cap the amount that a company or an individual can give to 20% of their annual earnings or tax burden. How else can governments help? Well, governments can actually pay themselves, can donate themselves. We know that in 2019, the governments in 5 countries and Hong Kong, Indonesia, Japan, Korea, Pakistan, and Thailand together gave $100 million toward supporting social enterprises in those 6 locations. Government can play a really important role in providing the capital. And what else can they do? Well, they can message the right way. In 4 out of 18 of the economies we study, there's a National Giving Day. Why shouldn't that be in 18 out of 18? When the government makes a National Giving Day, they're saying, we want you to do this. We encourage you to do this. Let's put our money where our mouth is. And let's put our mouth where the action is and help to incentivize and promote philanthropic giving. Another way that governments can help is by procuring the services and products from nonprofits and social enterprises directly. And you can see that in our study, social delivery organizations with government procurement contracts actually went down a little bit between 2018 and 2020. We think that when the government procures services from nonprofits and social enterprise, it sends a powerful message that the government trusts these organizations. And it also helps to level out the bottom line for many of these organizations who struggle to raise money. If you have steady income from the government, it gives you additional peace of mind. I say that somewhat wishfully because actually CAPS does not have any money from the government, but I think that if I did, I'd have some more peace of mind. Lastly, government is in charge of regulations. And why are regulations important? Regulations actually help increase both accountability and transparency. Does a nonprofit have to submit an annual report? Are those annual reports available to the public? Do they have to disclose their annual audit accounts? Are those available to the public? Those are mechanisms that can increase trust. When nonprofits come to us, and they often do, and say, please help me with fundraising, my answer is often, this is incumbent on you. Tell your story. Be accountable. Be transparent. Tell a donor where the money is going and why funding you is important and impactful and can make a difference. Nonprofits have to also do their fair share in helping to tell the story and to build trust. But government laws are confusing. And in fact, we found that 43% of the people who fill out our survey, which is more than 2,000 social delivery organizations, said that government laws are difficult to understand, 39% neutral. So 82% are saying neutral or difficult to understand. That means it's difficult to comply. And so we call upon governments here to be clear with what the regulations are, what the tax incentives are, what are the rules of the road, so that both the donors and the recipients can understand what the constraints are and how to maximize the regulations and rules they're operating within. Okay, trend number 2, location, location, location. I know that's an old term, usually meant about real estate, but what do I mean by it now? I'm talking about that in Asia, most philanthropy tends to be local. This has been exacerbated during the pandemic. Of course, we know the pandemic is global in nature, which means that a lot of philanthropy is staying close to home. But this trend was happening even before COVID-19. We saw declining foreign funding in 10 of the 18 economies we studied, and in the 6 whose flags are up, Bangladesh, China, India, Nepal, Pakistan, and Vietnam, there are actually new laws that are preventing money from flowing in and money flowing out. So even if someone wants to give cross-border, it's very difficult to do so if you're in one of these economies. But in Asia, most people don't want to give a cross-border. They tend to want to fund close to home. In the Tsinghua presentation we just saw, the presentation said that many Chinese philanthropists like to give to their hometown. And we find that throughout Asia, where companies and individuals know the terrain, know what the issues are, and prefer to fund there. But that's okay. because they understand what the issues are and they understand which interventions, which solutions are most likely. Rule number 3, there's more expectation for business to do more, to address our social issues, to step up and be good corporate citizens. In 8 stock exchanges across Asia, ESG reporting is now required. And actually, my picture is covering up some of these flags, but now it's not. In these 8, China, Hong Kong, India, Indonesia, Malaysia, Singapore, Sri Lanka, Vietnam, and in Shanghai and Shenzhen, actually also, ESG is now either there are guidelines or requirements. This is a very positive step. This encourages corporate players to think about E, environment, S, social, G, governance in every aspect of their work. So companies are being required in these cases to really do more to address environment and social. We did a study of ultra high net worth individuals, and you can see in the chart in the corner that 88% of them feel that PPPs for social service delivery in Asia will increase. And what do we mean by PPPs for social good? The term public-private partnership was originally created to talk about when the government and a company would build a toll road or a port project. And those made a lot of sense because the companies could derive ongoing income from managing those properties or some kind of concessions through those properties. PPPs for social good don't have that kind of income generating aspect to them, but yet we see them on the rise. We are about to release in the next couple of weeks a study on public-private partnerships for social good, where we looked at 20 of such projects across Asia to see what are the ones that work. Why do they work? Why are some successful and some fail? And so I'm not going to tell you what we found. This is a teaser to say that we are coming out with that study by mid-June, and I hope that you'll tune into our website and read it and download it. Now, money is not the only way that corporations can engage with the social sector. We found that 74% of social delivery organizations have members on their board with corporate experience, but still it's usually only 1 or 2 people. We think it's terrific when people with corporate experience sit on boards because they bring with them their knowledge of accounting, of financial planning, of human resources, of marketing. All of those skills are present inside the private sector and are desperately needed by social delivery organizations, whether they're nonprofits or social enterprises. Companies that allow their managers to sit on boards are doing a very big service. In some cases, more important than money, because all of these organizations need to stay afloat and need those skills transferred into them. So we hope that if any CEOs of a big or small company listening to this presentation today, I encourage you to allow your mid-level and senior managers to sit on nonprofit boards. Lastly, of course, companies can give money. In our study, we found that corporate funding only makes up for 15% on average of a SDO budget. And that ranges. The Philippines is higher, but Vietnam and Myanmar is almost non-existent. Surely, companies can do more to support the organizations that are on the front lines of dealing with challenges that we have today in healthcare, in education, in disaster relief. And so I encourage companies to partner with organizations to provide them your expertise, but also support them financially so that they can do their good work. Lastly, the next slide, please. Okay. The last trend I want to talk about is the rising interest in social enterprises and impact investing. 85% of donors, according to our study, show more interest in social enterprises. And we all know that there's quite a bit of buzz around social enterprises. But as you can see from this statistic, buzz is buzz. We need action. We need money. We need resources. Asia has 60% of the world's population, counts for 50% of the world's GDP, but it only receives 16% of global impact investment. And most of that funding is, one, coming from outside of Asia in, and two, being deployed in India and South Asia. There's very little impact investing in Southeast Asia and East Asia. Now that's changing, and there's a lot of interest, and there are companies and impact investing firms and actually regular investment firms that are creating these kinds of funds. So we expect that there's going to be fairly dramatic change. But let me just say that there's many ways also that money can be used in positive ways. There's social impact bonds, there's development impact bonds, and around Asia, there's quite a bit of experimentation and innovation happening with how essentially private sector resources, private sector tools, including the use of profit, can be deployed toward doing good. And we think that's terrific, and we want to see all that experimentation and to learn from it and grow from it and find new avenues and solutions. So how can Asia build back better? One, we need to embrace a multi-sector approach showcased during the pandemic. And what do I mean by that? Collaboration is kind of the word of the day. But collaboration is when the private sector, the government, and civil society or the social sector work together. Our problems today are multifaceted and complex. We need multifaceted and complex solutions to address them. But throwing people together in a room doesn't lend itself to an effective collaborations. Collaborations succeed when there's a lot of planning, a lot of deliberation, and a lot of understanding about who is doing what are the comparative strengths of each of the partners, and how does this collaboration or public-private partnership or really pull on the strengths of all the partners. And our study will help to look at that. And there's a number of different studies on effective collaborations that I think are really shedding light on how we can work together more successfully, more impactfully. How else? Well, we can lean into Asia's comparative advantage in taking longer-term views. And that means, as we know, in Asia, family-dominated or state-dominated shareholders are still very much the norm. And that can be a positive thing, because family-dominated and state-dominated firms can take a longer-term view. They can decide that they want to make less profit this quarter or even next quarter in order to really develop solutions that are good for the company and good for the community over the long term. For example, SK, which is the fourth largest chaebol or conglomerate in Korea, has decided to swap out oil and gas, which was what made the company rich in the first place, to become a renewable energy company. They can do that because they have a family that's really committed to that vision. And it helps them if they don't have to worry about quarterly returns. Another aspect that really is a comparative advantage in this case is that Asian philanthropy tends to work alongside and collaboratively with government. That means that projects can scale in ways that you cannot scale when government's not at the table. It can be a comparative advantage. When the government is involved in a project from the beginning and the project is seen as innovative and successful, the government can pick up that project and make it national policy. And we have see example after example of that. Philanthropy can be the risk capital. It can pilot new innovations and new ideas. And when government is participating in that, they can pick it up and scale it. Third, we need to identify and document innovative models and solutions coming from this part of the world. There are many, and I know that we have two research project partners, two universities. CAPS is also a research organization, the Lee Kuan Yew School at NUS, and the New Center for Philanthropy at Judge Business School in Cambridge. And I'm sure that they're looking at the innovative models and strategies that emanate from this part of the world, because things are different in Asia. And we need to understand what works on the ground here and embrace it and double down on those things that are working. And so we're glad to see this kind of proliferation of interest in research and documentation. And lastly, we can bring more wealth in through crowdfunding, but not only through crowdfunding. There's more disposable wealth in Asia than there ever has been in human history. And I'm not just talking about ultra high net worth individuals, although, as Rishi Howe in the previous session pointed out, there's 2 new billionaires a week in China. But there's more ultra high net worth throughout Asia, but there's also more high net worth and middle class that have some disposable income. And so we need to create systems that really allow people to engage, allow them to participate with sitting on boards, allow them to volunteer, allow them to be engaged in addressing the really the social issues that are affecting their communities. We know that one of the changes that we see from last generation to the new generation or next gen is a willingness to spend more time and energy thinking about social issues and thinking about environmental issues and acting on them. And so we really need to create systems to allow for more engagement. That only leads everyone to the good for all. So let me encourage you, next slide, please, to go to our website at caps.org. You can download the book that I've written, Pragmatic Philanthropy, at no cost, through the website or through Amazon. And again, it's free. Pragmatic Philanthropy, Asian Charity Explained. You can see our Doing Good Index and go to the interactive microsite that allows you to compare different countries and the data that we've had. You can see all of our reports, including interviews with wealthy people, with nonprofit leaders, podcasts. There's a lot of information there, so I encourage you to go there. And I just want to take the last couple of minutes to address a question from the audience. One was, why isn't Asia at 2%? And the answer is, I think, trust. Trust, but also we need to increase trust, but also Asia has never been that wealthy as it is now. So I would say that things are happening really fast. I've had a conversation with people in China and just recently, and this person said, oh, that was so long ago. And I said, how long? And he said, 3 years ago. Well, in a different lifetime, 3 years ago wouldn't have been a long time ago. But in Asia speed, things are happening really quickly. And so I think that our ability to get to 2%, Asia's ability to really be the leader when it comes to private social investment, innovation, different models of partnering with government, civil society, and philanthropy and companies, that's all happening right in front of our eyes. And so I think that we should have this conference again next year, and we'll check in and see how much closer we are. So with that, I want to really thank everyone. I want to thank again Global Philanthropic. And now let me queue up our next discussion, which is an interview with Global Philanthropy Advisor Chris Putnam Walkerly and the founder and CEO of Global Philanthropic, Ben Morton Wright. So thank you very much. Check out our website and keep giving and doing good. Thank you.